I have always loved dancing. I danced until my legs gave out underneath me as a kid and well into my 20s. But this isn't really a story about dance, though. It's about why we're afraid to be seen, and it starts earlier than you'd think. When I was 6, I discovered ballet, and I begged my mom to let me take classes. She said no, and I was hurt, but I told myself it was because we couldn't afford it. That was a story that I could live with because I knew that my mother was really the sole breadwinner in our broken family. My father was a compulsive gambler and an alcoholic, and he was really just unreliable when it came to keeping a job or looking after us. But as I got older, it became clear that wasn't really the reason. My mother was my primary caregiver until I was 12. And somewhere in those years, I learned something that no one ever said to me directly. Don't show what you're good at. I loved to draw. I think I actually had a real talent for drawing, but I learned fast never to show her or anyone else because what I got back wasn't acknowledgement. It was, you know, that little smile or that pat on the head, and nothing ever landed. Then, when I was about 9, I drew my own version of Venus rising out of the waves, and the irony is not lost on me, people. Anyway, I grew up, of course, in this house with no boundaries, no routine. My parents weren't careful about anything really. My father was always bringing girly magazines into the home. And so I was inspired by those images, but also by my cousin's encyclopedias. My cousin, who did not live too far away from where I lived, he had a collection of world encyclopedias, the World Book and Encyclopedia Britannica. And I was inspired by ancient art, really. So I drew this version of Venus rising out of the waves, and my mother found it and she made a scene, a huge, huge scene, because my Venus was naked. And the irony, this goddess was rising out, born from foam, from the sea, radiant and unashamed. And the version of her that came out of my 9-year old got, my 9-year old hands got treated like something shameful to be hidden. So by the time I left to live with my paternal grandmother, I had stopped showing anyone anything. I didn't draw anymore. I didn't paint. The only thing I let myself keep was storytelling. And storytelling is what really kept me sane because storytelling felt safe. Everything else I put away. Here's what I really want you to hear because I think it's the thing that almost nobody says out loud about visibility. Most of us are not actually afraid of showing up. We're not afraid of speaking or of being seen or of showing our talent or putting our talent out into the world in front of people in general. We are actually afraid of one or two people's judgment. We are afraid of either that parent's judgment or a sibling's judgment or a mentor or someone else that you look up to, someone with influence. For me, it was my mother and another person that I'm not going to mention here. She is no longer with us either, but this other person's opinion also mattered a lot to me. So for you, it might be someone else entirely. It might not be your mother, might not be your father, it might not be a family member. But if you're honest with yourself, I bet you can name them. Not people, it's not the world, it's one face, maybe two. That's not vanity or generalized anxiety. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. because our nervous system does not build itself or organize itself around abstractions. It organizes around specific people who once held our safety, our belonging, our approval in their hands. So when you imagine putting yourself out there now, your body isn't bracing for strangers on the internet. It's bracing for that one person all over again. That's why when people say to you, just don't care what other people think, that does not work because it's not people, it's a specific person. I want to tell you something that my mother told me not long after she was diagnosed with cancer. She told me she had lived most of her life with a bitterness that she was never able to fully put down. When she was 14, growing up in Mozambique, Mozambique is this beautiful tropical country in Africa, she was walking on the beach with a pet monkey, and my mother had this most beautiful singing voice, and she loved singing whenever she was out and about by herself. And everyone who heard her knew it. And one day, a music producer approached her, music producer from Lisbon approached her on the beach and asked her if he could go and meet with her father. And of course, he wanted to talk to my grandfather, my mother's father, about her getting more training for her voice and then possibly having this career as a singer. So he did meet with my grandfather, and after this producer left, my grandfather literally beat the music out of my mother's body. Now, if you're curious about my mother's birth chart, you would not be surprised to know that her birth chart carries both of those threads very clearly. The potential for very real worldly success and fame, and the abuse at her father's hands that made it sure that it never had the chance to actually become manifest. My mother never sang again. And here's the part that I want you to sit with. I inherited that fear, not metaphorically, actually, on a cellular level. That fear that lived in her body from that beach encounter in Mozambique found its way all the way, found its way into how she raised me, like, into the pat on my head instead of praise, into not investing in developing my talents and gifts, into a scene that lives that I've played over and over again in my mind, over a drawing of a naked goddess, into a quiet, constant message that talent on display is dangerous. She wasn't protecting me from visibility. She was protecting me the only way she knew how, by making sure that I never became visible enough to be punished for it the way she was. There's a good chance that you're carrying an inheritance like this too. Not necessarily this kind of story, but a fear that was never actually yours to begin with, that has been passed down from someone who loved you, but was also terrified for you, or terrified of what happened to them when they shone. So, how do you actually move through this? Because just heal your trauma and then show up isn't a real answer. Here's what I've come to believe. Visibility gets easier. It's not painless, but it does get easier when you have a reason that is big enough to hold it. That reason cannot be fame. Fame chased for its own sake keeps you playing the exact same game as the person whose judgment you are always afraid of. You're still performing for approval, but you've just widened the stage. It doesn't undo the old pattern. It puts you on a treadmill that runs on other people's verdicts. And that kind of validation never fully lands. So you have to keep chasing it. It depletes you. It will, if you let it, destroy you because it was never designed to fill you up. It was only designed to be witnessed. But when your reason for showing up is something that regenerates you, like devotion to something, an art, a form of service, or a truth that can't not be said or spoken out loud, then something shifts. The reason doesn't need that one or two people's approval. It doesn't even need an audience. It refills you in the act of doing it, whether or not anyone claps. And when your nervous system isn't depending on someone else's verdict to feel safe, their judgment can still sting, sure, but it stops being load bearing. You can hear it and you can still keep going. That's the difference. It's not stop caring what they think. It's stop needing their approval to regulate yourself to feel safe. If what you've just heard has stirred something in you, it's reminded you of something, it is helped in any way. And if you sense that there's a deeper story underneath your own patterns, your own hesitations, the places that you keep pulling back from being seen, that's exactly what my Breaking the Pattern reading is for. It's a 60-minute private reading, and it's for you if you sense that there is a deeper story beneath the challenges or transitions unfolding in your life. Using your birth chart as a map, we explore the unconscious patterns or the inherited family dynamics and soul themes that may be quietly shaping your relationships, your career, your confidence, your life choices. I don't just tell you what I see in the chart. I guide you through the process of discovery, and together we connect the symbols in your chart with your own lived experience so you can recognize the invisible patterns for yourself. And time again, clients tell me that moment of recognition is where everything starts to change for them. If you're ready to find out what's really yours, the link is in the description box. So thank you again for being here. If you have not yet subscribed and you found this helpful, please do like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.